You are listening to WRUULP, Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul. Go ahead and get all these disclaimers out of the way. The viewpoints expressed in the following program are not necessarily those of WRUU, its license holder, or its staff. The following program contains subject matter and realistic language that some listeners may find objectionable. Listener discretion is advised. Awesome. We got all those disclaimers out of the way. And now you are live with Real Talk. I know it's been a couple weeks, y'all. We had to take some vacation time, some good family time, and good break time, a mental break as well. But we came back with some heat. We got some fire folks set up for y'all in the next couple of weeks, starting tonight. Our special guest joining us is the Neighborhood Association President for Hudson Hill, President and CEO of Ivory Bay Development Corporation, and just a host of other things that she does in the community. I'm sure if I listed it all, it still wouldn't be everything that she does. We have none other than Miss Bernetta Lanier with us tonight. Y'all clap it up on live, clap it up in your car, all that good stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Glad I could make it.
Absolutely.
On this
right.
Isn't that wonderful?
Right. That's dedication right there.
It's a little miss.
Well, let's get into it. Tell the people who you are, what you do, all the great things about you.
Well, my name, again, is Bernetta Lanier, Bernetta Bryant Lanier.
Yes.
And you introduced me as being the president of the Hudson Hill Community Organization that I am. So, of course, that means I live on Hudson Hill.
Yeah.
And I always tell folks, I'm a fourth-generation resident of Hudson Hill community. And I think that's interesting, and people think, it makes folks think, because Savannah is a city that thrives around its history.
Mm-hmm.
We market this history, and this history has made Savannah, but it's just a fraction of the story.
Right.
So, fourth generation, so it's embedded. We embedded over there.
We're going to get into that. I need to write that down because you brought up a great point that I definitely need to get into, but keep going.
So I come up on Hudson Hill, and I went to HBCU.
Hey, what HBCU?
South Carolina State.
South Carolina State. HBCU love.
Okay. Well, that was my undergrad, but in graduate school I attended Savannah State.
Hey, that's what I'm talking about.
Right. And worked in local government for 15 years.
Awesome.
So I was in engineering and public works analyst, budget analyst, police dispatcher. So that was my job doing government. And so after government for 10 years, I did marketing.
Wow.
So I started with the people that I worked. I put bids together in engineering and public works. With contractors from that side of the table. So in the private sector, I went to work for contractors, securing bids
there
from
you
government.
go.
So I did that for like 10 years, and some other marketing, like with BET and Nickelodeon and Comcast, some contracts with them. Construction management, so that was for 10 years, and after that, I decided to become a longshorewoman at the Port of Savannah, and that was like 10 years ago.
That's awesome. How's that? Because I know there's a couple of women that work up there, but it's not a woman-intensive industry. It's more male-dominated.
It definitely is. It's a male-oriented industry, but there are jobs in the industry that women can physically do, and there are lots of women now in the rank.
Right.
In the rank, so it's like one of the best decisions I've made career-wise. It was a good move.
Awesome. Tell us about some awards and recognition you may have from all the work that you do.
Well, I really don't have a long list of awards and recognitions, but I do have a long list of work.
Yes.
um, and I have been recognized by my community, of course, but I've had an opportunity to work with a group of people to found CASA, the local CASA here in Savannah. And this was many years
Yes.
ago.
Woo, wow.
Because of that need and making sure that children were represented in the legal system.
That's a major move right there.
So that organization is still thriving.
Right.
And I'm glad of that. I don't do any work with them because the work now is in the community, that I have the time and the energy for.
That's awesome. Yeah. Kate Blair was just awarded the position for executive director.
She told me.
Yes.
She told me. That was wonderful. She's in
Yes.
some good places.
Yes.
Because we also had an opportunity to work with Mayor. He was Mayor Otis Johnson at the time when he created Step Up. So the people that I worked with in the community leaders, we were the original resident team members, and supported that effort and worked with that effort until we all served on the board and rotated off of the board, and they're continuing to do that work. But that's interesting because the work, there were some areas that work did not reach,
Right.
more or less, and so we really needed to concentrate more on those areas which were more neighborhood centric.
Right.
So, but that was a good effort, and I'm sure they meet certain needs in the community.
Mm-hmm. So speaking of neighborhoods, what is it that a neighborhood association president does, and what is it that you do specifically for Hudson Hill? I know, tell the people.
That's funny. It's almost like you're that nosy neighbor. You're that one. You're that one that's watching and looking. But we really have a good group of leadership and active community members on Hudson Hill. We have a history, a legacy of activism in our community. So our board and the people that actually work and help run the organization, and we also serve like block captains. We actually get out there and walk and talk to neighbors and distribute information and organize events, and we do our monthly community meetings, and we deal with city staff on community issues as far as infrastructure, street problems, and when we advocate for benefits, for investment. It seems like a lot of our work is always advocacy. And so we have a lot of needs, being a low wealth community.
Right.
So we are from a tradition of that. Hudson Hill Community Organization is the first neighborhood organization in the city recognized by city government because of the needs. Being an underserved community. We have a history of being underserved, so even our parents had to fight a certain fight to advocate for paved streets, for street lights, for proper drainage. Those were the fight during that time, and they were very industrious because they worked from a background of sharecropping parents to the point where they were able to purchase properties, land, and so we're talking about a neighborhood of mostly homeowners, landowners. But benefits of city services did not come easily, sparingly, equitably to the neighborhood. So they advocated with city government, with the school board for buses and certain benefits for the children. So in that environment is what we inherited, but the fight now, again, is different because it's about growth and development, equitable growth and development. It's about sustainability. It's about enrichment. It's about having the resources to aim at the problems that will really impact them at the grassroots level.
Right.
Programs work, empowering community leadership work, partnership with stakeholders work for reinvestment,
Mm-hmm.
Policy that help clear titles as opposed to those that eminently domain properties. It's more community centric. It's more people centric, more
Mhm.
resident centric than the not the stick and the carrot. You know, lots of time we deal with the stick, even on our policy, and we probably could accomplish more when we do collaborations and reinvestments and those type of things.
Absolutely. Brooks messaging us on my live. She's like, she does everything. You do a lot, Miss Bernetta. You do a lot. But coming from a city standpoint, I appreciate what you do and other community advocates like you, because if it wasn't for people like you, we wouldn't be held accountable, you know. And I'm coming up, I've been with the city for about 3 years now, but I'm coming up in like a new generation of city employees, like where we want to like get back to the people that we serve and really understand what's going on. It's not just about rolling out policies, rolling out regulations. It's about actually serving the community. I was scrolling through some of your pictures and you posted the old org chart for the city, and you said, you know, there's a new one coming out soon. It was an older picture.
Yes,
But you said no matter what, nothing should change, that the citizens should be at the top. And that's what we believe in. We want the citizens to be at the top, because no matter what, we wouldn't be employed if we didn't serve you. So.
I actually see that in the young public servants that I deal with. I actually see a difference, and it's refreshing. Even the young people that I work with in community and working and organizing, they get it, and that is refreshing to me because for the last 14 years we've been dealing with this CDC, Community Development Corporation. It's been about teaching or sensitizing the market to understand what the CDC is, what it can do, the power of one, the beauty of one, how it should be or could be a win-win for everyone. And anytime folks have to reconsider a way we do business, they get nervous and just maybe reject it. But these are best practice policy issues. This is good government.
Right.
And here we're introducing you to good government that has been created, that is working in other places with similar problems. But it's been interesting, and so it's been a lot of resistance in my generation, but in explaining the concept and talking about strategic community development, resident-driven development, and explaining that the young people, they really get it.
Right.
I think because they get it's about equity.
Right.
You know, it's about people-centric. It's about putting the people first, and I get that with this the new generation of public staff.
Keep us on our toes for sure. I do want to get back to something that you said though, and that's such a big issue near and dear to my heart about titles and property, especially in the Black community.
Yes.
Because I acquired 2 properties through the tax lien auction process, and it was a diverse crowd out there at the auction, but the majority of properties being auctioned off were Black owners, and it was for past due taxes. You know, the original owner died, and now it's a cloudy title. Nobody really wants to pay the taxes. You know, it's dilapidated properties.
That's a lot.
Right, it was a lot. I'm like, there has to be some sort of process, and I know because I know a couple people, and don't get me wrong, I work for the city, so I ain't making a ton of money out here, you know. But for a couple, you know, a couple $1,000s, you can go through the process of obtaining property. You know, you wait your year, and then you go through the process of clearing the title, and then that's automatic. It's like building wealth for you right there. Or you can hold on to that property, but there's no, I feel like gentrification is twofold, because people wouldn't have the property to buy if we weren't giving it away. But there has to be some responsibility as well. I recognize that, you know, that economic growth, capitalism in theory is not the same thing as capitalism in practice. Period. You want the opportunity for everybody to have a chance based on their own merit to acquire financial success. But it doesn't always work like that, because I could take it back to the example of the old freight station that's now being turned into luxury condos right next to West Savannah, which is next to Hudson Hill.
We'll put a pin there because we need to discuss that, but we'll come back to that. We'll talk about that. Yeah. So I agree with you. That freight station thing, we got to talk about that.
Yeah.
Because I went to city council on one issue and did not know that was on the agenda one day. So I didn't have any backup. So I sat there, but I had to say something. As a leader on the west side, I wanted that council to know that they were creating a precedent. Because this was the first time that they had spot zoned, rezoned a piece of property for a developer, so he could come in and do a project that the current zoning did not allow.
Right.
So he said he was going to come in and he was going to renovate that building. But I understand now he may want to tear it down. I'm not sure. I hadn't been following it that closely. But anyway, I wanted them to know that day in the history of West Savannah, never had they allowed a developer to petition them to rezone a piece of property for his project. That's called spot zoning. And in public administration, that's a no-no. So why are we doing this?
Right.
Why are we doing a no-no, a best practice no-no, in broad daylight? And I'm standing here telling you that's a no-no, and you're continuing to do it. Why are you acquiescing to this developer? And the reason that you shouldn't do it is because we don't have a plan.
Right.
We have been advocating and begging you all at City Council for an area plan for the west side since 2004. And you keep stringing us along, and we don't have a plan yet. And you cannot just continue growth in an area that's a target area without a plan. Now, once we get a plan, a resident-driven plan through charrettes and what have you, once we get an area plan, then what comes in fits in the plan. Shouldn't be a lot of variances and all those things because we got a plan. But right now you are allowing these developers for profit's sake to come in and impact these communities for their opportunity's sake. And it's not creating opportunity for the people that live there. And that's a farce. And so we need to understand it, because it doesn't have to be so one-sided. It could still be structured where everyone went, including the community. That's why gentrification takes on a negative connotation, because the worst of gentrification, which is really just an economic, social movement, but is the forced displacement, which is the most negative aspect of gentrification. And that has been such a sting associated with gentrification that it makes the whole word take on a negative connotation. Because if you could reinvest in your own community, our communities are worth X, but they're going to be worth X times X. And everything in between is called equity. And that's our wealth.
Right.
So you think we're going to move the pooler and give our wealth to the people with the capital gains?
Right.
Or you think we're going to stay and pool our resources and create CDCs and purchase our own property and put programs together to strengthen our people's credit so they could buy houses in their own community? Because we in a perfect location. Location. And where we live at, just west of burgeoning Pooler and those areas, and just south of the Savannah River, right there on the bay, and just north of Southside Savannah, and just east or just west of downtown Savannah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we in this wealth bowl. You know, it's
Mm-hmm.
wealth all around. So if the cup is running over, and it's running over into Greater West Savannah, into the Ivory Bay corridor, and then
Mm-hmm.
we should be able to scoop some of that up. If not, you know, no, not all, because that's greedy.
Right.
But the other side of that is that it's that what they're saying now about the poverty has decreased. That's going to be the next thing that they're partying about downtown, and that is not. We need to look at that closely.
I agree.
In my opinion, as a political scientist, put that hat on. But the impoverished aren't building wealth, and we're shrinking the impoverished. What's happening? We're moving the impoverished around. So now we're moving the impoverished out of the city limits, and we increase the affluent people in the city core. And so now what we're going to see is that the poverty rate go down, and that is a misgiving. So we have to watch that, because if you, and I'm sure the poverty rate in Poole and Garden City probably have increased because we're pushing the poverty west.
I said, if you're from Savannah, you know why the rates are going down.
Mm-hmm.
So if anybody outside of Savannah or anybody who hasn't been paying attention to everything going on around them, then they'd be like, oh, wow, poverty is going down. People are getting jobs. Like, no, that's not it.
Wake up.
That is not it. Exactly what you just said is why it's going down.
But don't look at that and get sidetracked.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because getting distracted is the enemy is very good at that. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying that to say what you need to be looking at is the numbers, the voting numbers in this change, in this moving of the population, in this exodus. Because that means that the voting strength of the African American community is going to be weakened in the city on top of the apathy. So now we're going to have, we may not have to push consolidation so hard, or either it would be easier just to do the consolidation, because our majority is shrinking.
Yes.
So that's what we need to be discussing, and the poverty thing, we're not even discussing poverty. Don't talk about poverty. I don't want to hear about it. We're talking about building wealth. Building wealth in low wealth communities, and that's what all we need to talk about. And poverty will take care of itself. Let's talk about building wealth.
Yes.
If you talk about poverty, you're going to get poverty. If we talk about building wealth, we're going to attract wealth. So if you want to talk about something, let's talk about building wealth and how we create programs that teach low wealth people how to build wealth.
I don't know if y'all can feel my enthusiasm in the studio or not, but I swear these are the type of conversations I live for, because you are thinking outside of the box. You see what's given, but you know the background story, and you're able to separate the foolishness and get down to the truth.
Definitely.
People need to hear that, and they need to understand that, because we're so blinded by the lights of politics and all the gimmicks and all the tricks. But when you're down there in the grind, and you can see what's really going on, you can decipher what's the truth. And I'm loving this whole conversation.
I was watching your work from afar before we actually met, online, and I wanted to say something, and I said, no, she's going to say, who she think she is?
No, absolutely not.
Something, and I just wanted to share that you're organizing on it. You own that. On your organizing, on your message. And it's a good thing to have people come in to help you in your organization, and the impact that people organize, because those are your stakeholders, those are your partners, those are your investors, Um, and because in our building wealth, we can't get it all.
Right.
So we're going to have to deal with other ethnicities.
Mm-hmm. Ethnicities.
Ethnicities.
You got this.
Thank you. Help me. They call us Geechee, you know.
Hey, I love it.
But
I love
another
it.
conversation. We'll talk about that because well, that's another conversation.
I love it.
So, so these are the things we have to do now in community building. We got to own something. That's going to be the first step.
Yes.
After organizing and having and dotting your I's and crossing your T's.
Yes.
So like a person that I respect told me, say, okay, look, you've done an excellent job at organizing. Now it's time to learn how to develop, put on the developer's hat.
Right.
And so we are working with developers in our area as far as partnering on discussions of how the community could receive benefits from the partnership.
Right.
So we could be the community developer in partnership with construction developers.
See, I had never heard of community benefits agreements until you happened to mention it when we were, and I won't even say going back and forth on Facebook, but it was a dialogue of two different sides, but we both had a common goal. And you were sharing so much information. That's why I was like, oh, this is so intriguing. Like, I wanted to get my thoughts out, but I was like, I'm paying attention too. I'm peeping game. So when you mentioned the community benefits agreement, I was like, I need to see what that's all about, because, like I said, capitalism in theory is not the same thing as capitalism in practice. And in my mind, you know, there should be some sort of responsible growth, you know, in a community, but it doesn't always happen like that. You know, Starling is a great example of that. You know, there was some growth, and then now, you know, it's just luxury condos, and it's pushing everybody out. But it was so intriguing, our conversation. I was like, I got to figure out how I can get this over to my group of people, because I know that the East Side Waters Avenue corridor is suffering right now. But I know that we can also do something about it as well. Because I have a property over there too, you know, and I'm like, we have to do something about this. We can't just keep giving our community away. This is ours. We belong here. We've been here for years, for generations.
Well, we're going to have to deal with government like a business. You know, we can't be emotional about this. We can't be nostalgic about this. We're going to have to be about our business.
I agree.
So, in community building, if you're scared, say you're scared, because it's, you know, we false evidence appearing real. We don't have time for. We have a right to say we have been underserved, you know, because if you have worked in local government as an analyst, if you know where the bones are, you know, if we had to look at the frequency and services provided, we could legally probably find some bias in the way we allocate funds in local government. But why should we have to go there? You know, that's such a waste of time and energy. It's there. But let's go forward and form these partnerships. Let's make sure we got some urban development fund that's accessible to the people. I've read 1 million grants. I don't know. Them folks good at making sure that there might be one caveat in that grant that makes sure you don't qualify for it, or someone else would have to vouch for you in acquiring it. And that's the reason why we have a lot of negative outcomes in our city, because we have talent here that we're trying to snuff out in our young people.
Say it.
We have answers here. We have creators here that we are not encouraging to create or putting in institutions or systems to make sure that they could gravitate and create. And that creation could be a benefit, to all of us, to the communities. You could structure programs where you encourage young people to create and provide resources, and you could even get royalties from your environment. It's just so much we could do that could be win-win, and that will go into the community investment pot that combined community alliance can go to build housing and to create programs and to make sure we get to do the important work of maintaining our own preschools and daycares.
Yes.
Every time I think about our babies going into that public school system, my heart drops. 3-year-old program. I just can't wrap my mind and my heart around that, because we need to be our baby teachers at that age.
I'm telling you.
They don't even know who they are, and that's the biggest problem with our young people now. They don't know who they are.
Hold that thought right there. We definitely gonna get into that. Whew, she done hit a nerve. We gotta pay some bills real quick, y'all. You're listening to WRULP, Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRU.org. We are Savannah Soundings, community radio with Global Soul.
General litigation, DUI defense, and Social Security disability and workers' compensation claims.
Love you.
To contact
Love you.
Jones, Punkin, and Associates, call
Love you. You are. Oh, I got the mic off right now.
6161.
You're amazing. Loving this.
I hope I don't hurt your ratings.
Why would you? This is what we talk about. This is real stuff.
A lot of people don't like to hear this kind of stuff.
Well, too bad. They should have checked into another show. This is real talk.
It's just the truth.
The open enrollment period under the Affordable Care Act will begin on November 1st and end on December 15th. If you need help enrolling, Insure Georgia is a nonprofit vendor and politically neutral assistance program with telephone, online, and in-person navigators available to help. Open enrollment events will be held in Chatham County. Telephone navigators are available at 1-866-988-8246. Online navigators and more information is available at insurega.org. All right, December 15th is tomorrow, y'all. So y'all got until tomorrow to get your health insurance. Important. All right, back to this conversation, though. Talking about how lost we are. I say that all the time. I'm like, we are lost.
Yeah.
We don't know ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
I made it a mission this summer that I was going to take my kids to a museum or some sort of historical tour, so they could really get some background information on where you came from, because, my kids are a little sheltered. I'm like, you got to understand something. Civil rights era, all these pictures that you see, I said, Granny and Granddaddy, my grandparents, they own a hair salon on MLK. They're one of the last black businesses left on MLK. I'm like, they grew up in that era. They were teenagers in that era, and they could tell you the stories about how they used to be treated. I said, this is not that long ago. You can see your history. You can talk to your history. And it's very harsh where they came from, but understand something. That story also has a bright ending as well, because not only were they able to survive their struggle, talking about our family personally, but they were able to thrive through their struggle. So don't just look at that as such a harsh period of mistreatment and struggle, but it was a period of resilience and a stronghold empowerment. You should feel empowered because of your past. And I don't know, I look at some of the kids today and you can tell they don't feel empowered because they don't know themselves.
That's right.
They still live in a struggle mentality.
I think what I think is missing with our children is that we have to go back beyond slavery.
Yes, absolutely.
We have to go back beyond the Middle Passage. We
Absolutely.
have to go back to Mother Africa.
Yes.
And we have to talk about the continent, talk about Africa as a continent and the countries that make up Africa. We have to talk about Africa being rich in minerals and resources. We have to talk about Africa being the mother of civilization. We have to talk about Africa and all of the wealth that is embedded in Africa, and the people and the beauty. And we have to talk about when Africans travel the globe.
Yes.
You know, we have to talk about when Africans influence the people in Central and South America.
They don't know about Timbuktu.
And
It's just a cartoon thing to them.
You know, the African influence around the globe.
Right.
We have to talk about colonialism, teach our children about that. And then they have to know how the American chattel slavery fit into all of that, letting them know that we did not come from there.
Right.
So we were stuck there, but we went through that. And because of that, and because of civil rights, we are the beneficiaries of that suffrage and that struggle. But because of our strong African roots, and because of what we have benefited from in acquiring a measure of wealth and education and rights, citizenship and status, now it's time for us to reconnect with Mother Africa, so we could go back with our kindreds, our sisters and our brothers and our family, and take what the best of what we have and go back and reinvest with our family where all the resources at, because the next great wealth will be being built coming out of in this globally. Our children need to understand global position and global politics and how we position, because this one world, one government, there need to be global citizens, but understanding that there can be no world government or world domination with a minority of the people coming out of Europe and all of the wealth, and the numbers are coming out of Africa, and then so it's just so much that we have to just make sure our babies know, because once they understand that, they'll walk a little different. They might pull up their pants. They might, talk a little differently, because we just got to get their minds on what's important. And I think it's happening. It's coming. We just can't put all our faith in the public school system.
Don't even get me started. I had to pull my son out of there because I saw it a while ago, and I actually had a conversation with some deep board members and the policy action committee that Deep has formed because of the new mission to create social justice, especially for the court-involved youth here in Savannah. So the numbers came out. We saw the numbers. We have twice as many court-involved youth in Savannah than we do in larger metropolitan areas of Georgia, and the large majority of them are African-American males.
Of course.
Something we know already. That pipeline to prison.
Yeah. It's systemic.
Exactly. But it seems now, when my son started school 10 years ago, I don't know who that is. They'll have to wait a second. Somebody's knocking at the door. But when he started school, trying to get an IEP for him was a difficult process. No one was going to tell me about it. And it was one of my tax clients who told me that a lot of the white children had the IEPs, those individualized education plans, where they scope out pretty much their entire day just so they can combat some of the issues that they have. And I said, this is what I want. Right. This is what I want for my son. And it worked so well. Come back. I moved to St. Louis. I come back to Georgia. Now, almost all the black kids are on IEPs, but they grouped them all in the same class. So all you did was label them so you could shift them off. Wow. And then you don't have to worry about them. You don't teach them anything. My son was learning supply and demand in 3rd grade in St. Louis. I come back here, I'm like, what'd you learn in school today? Oh, we did some math papers and some reading. Oh, you didn't learn social studies or science? Oh, no, we didn't. So I asked the teacher what's going on. Oh, we're not required to teach that. Oh, so you're just going to, just not even bother trying to educate the kids while they're here in school. I pulled them out of public school.
It's unfortunate, I tell you, because if you're not the type parent that actively teach your child, sit down and be the teacher, and read to them, and expose them to knowledge, and expose them to different concepts. I think it's important to teach children how to think. Even just people in your environment. I say children, but the people in your environment, because
this is our videographer, Dale. Dale just came through the building, y'all.
Hello.
I was just saying, we have to teach children how to think.
Right.
And don't let them be a lazy thinker like, Mom, what's this and what's that? Because you're not supposed to be answering all that. You're supposed to say, well, you go think about it, or consider the consequences, or go look it up, or engage them to make them figure stuff out and don't think for them.
Right.
Because you have to learn how to process information, and not just can't just regurgitate it. It can't just be a lazy thinker and think somebody gonna give them all the answers. Learn how to come up with solutions. Learn how to weigh information. Learn how to consider consequences. Learn how to play chess.
Yes, I agree. I said that about HBCUs a while back when I, not too long after I graduated, and I just remember coming up in our business leadership classes that we were told to assimilate with our environment. We were told to not stand out too much, wear your hair like this, so you don't intimidate them. And I'm like, they don't teach them that at Harvard or Princeton. They teach them how to be innovators, while meanwhile we're being taught how to assimilate. I think that's a big disadvantage.
Yes.
And I don't know, what the curriculum looks like now, so I can't speak on that, but I don't think that there's an entrepreneurship class at Savannah State anymore.
Wow. Unfortunate.
It is very unfortunate when that's the majority of our dollars. And when you teach not only entrepreneurship, but they did, I don't know if they still have it, they started the logistics program at Savannah State. I don't know if they kept that up because it was one professor who was doing it. I don't think he's there anymore. But that was so important.
Yeah, it really is. And I think the industry in Savannah Tech, they have sort of dominating that.
Yes.
So they can control that. And because it's all around the port, and that industry and all of the other industries that pop up based on the port, so they must control that logistic system in order to control those dollars.
Right, and it's a lot of money. They're expanding, and that's a good partnership right there, because that was something that was mentioned. I think it was mentioned during the budget retreat, and some of our council members mentioned it during their workshops. These are all public notes, so I feel free speaking about this. I'm not sharing any confidential information. But as far as making partnerships, especially with the ports when it comes to the infrastructure, because we as the city don't have enough dollars to fund these large infrastructure projects, especially when it comes to the areas around the ports. But if we can get them on board and have them tag along with it as well, we can get these projects done faster. And then it grows the economy for the surrounding areas and for the Savannah population at large.
That's one of the benefits that local community developers, I'll say they give it away, and it turns out they don't go after it, and it's already precedents on the West Coast where they pay a tax on tonnage for community development, but we don't do that here, and I don't think they want to even talk about it too much, because the port is growing based on it being a free port type way. They don't have to pay in terms of pay those type taxes. But we're talking about the school system and how they're failing our children.
Mm-hmm.
They're not really designed to teach our children, and a lot of people say children are children, and I stand here to say that we do have a culture. So there are different cultures in the system. There are children from a lot of different cultures,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a good thing to have that diversity.
Mm-hmm.
So don't deny that we have an African American culture, because
Right.
we do. So we cannot necessarily depend on the school system to make sure that our children get that aspect that is a critical aspect of
Right.
their character building. So we have to take that out the game. And today, in the type of electronic environment that we have as far as communications and all of the different aspects that we have, and with social media, and it's no way we have to depend on those old systems, and look like they're crumbling, look like they're being faced with a lot of threats now, unfortunately. But I think that we should never stand by and allow these HBCUs, but when our systems crumble, and look out for this word here, because this is a catchword now, incrementally. You're going to hear this a lot. These changes that are happening as far as gentrification, as far as the complexion of these neighborhoods changing, it's all being done incrementally. It's a gradual thing, but it's definitely coming. So that's what's happening with these schools too. Savannah State is threatening. I understand that the numbers just down, but we're going to have some problems in the economy because of student debt.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be the next .com.
Yep.
That's going to cause a ripple in the economy and hurt the economy, because you're going to have a generation of young people that's not going to be able to afford to they're going to have to acquiesce to a walk, live, work, society. Can't afford the car and the house and these things because they're being shackled with that student loan. So we need to do something about that. We bailed out the banks, but we won't bail out
the students
yeah.
who don't have the funds to do it.
This debt.
Yeah.
They're selling the debt to this one and that one, and folks making money off of the debt.
Those are some of the highest interest rates. Student loan debt has some of the highest interest rates, higher than mortgage rates, higher than auto loan rates. They have some of the highest interest rates.
Debt is like traded almost. That debt is bought and sold.
Mm-hmm.
They make money off of going after that.
It is.
Yeah, and they add to it.
And that's something that a lot of people don't understand. That's a little bit more complex. I'm not gonna fault people for not understanding that part of it. But if you start looking into the economy and the structure and how it works and what drives it on a macroeconomic scale, then you'll see that that's one of the drivers now in today's society is student loan debt.
That's right. Absolutely.
That's crazy. I love these conversations with you. We didn't even make it to the other part of the outline.
I need to talk about West Savannah, though.
Yeah, we got 10 minutes left.
Okay, so 14 years ago out in West Savannah, 3 neighborhood presidents, myself, at the time, I was the president at that time again at Hudson Hill. Pamela Howard Oglesby was the president in West Savannah, and Tyrone Ware was the president in Woodville. And we were all longtime residents, generational folk. So we remember times when the neighborhoods were closer, when it was just a bunch of families, when it wasn't any separation, just different sections, but we were kindreds. And we felt the more we worked with city government and the more structure we received, quote unquote, from downtown, we felt, the vision setting in. So we wanted to do something to make sure that we connected. So we wanted to make sure that we kept that unity in our community. So we started this Greater West Savannah Christmas parade and celebration. And Woodville isn't active right now, but we continue it until this day. It's 14 years later. So tomorrow is that parade. We step off at the Hudson Hill Park, and we're going to walk to the Moses Jackson Center, and we have I don't know how many, but maybe about 50 or 60 some entries this year.
Nice.
It's growing, and so we have a good time. Then we have a nice program and really good food. We want to make sure that we connect with our youth and youth leaders and recognize the elders and those that have paved the way. And,
Right.
And we invite the public to come out and have a good time with us. We'll have some entertainment. We'll have good food, good fellowship, and it's just a good time for all. And so we just happy that we get a chance to have Copper Claus to come in. He's Officer Todd Rhodes.
Okay.
His character, Copper Claus, so he's going to visit with
Copper
us, and we'll have some
Claus.
gifts, small gifts for the children.
That's beautiful. That's I love that. That's getting back to the basics, community basics. What we have drawn so far away from. I'm glad you said that, because we have drawn away from our community. You
This
know,
is about
knowing
the
who our
children.
neighbors are.
Absolutely. The children need to see us coming together to celebrate good times and not just come together when it's a funeral or some type of tragedy in the community. They need to know that we organize and come together for the good of the community. They need to see this. I saw it then.
Right.
So understand the importance to make sure that our children see this, that we come together for good things.
I'm definitely bringing my kids tomorrow.
Oh, thank you. Please come. Please
Yes,
come. We
it's
have a
at
good
10
time.
o'clock, right?
We step off at 10 o'clock.
Okay.
Yeah, from Hudson Hill. Yes.
Okay, and then you'll go from Hudson Hill, cross over Bay, and go over to the Moses Jackson Center.
Yes.
And so the security is all set up to shut down the street for y'all to pass the parade.
Yes. Law enforcement is involved as a partner, and they're accustomed to us having this, and they work with us well on this. So
That's
yes,
awesome.
good team, a good collaboration between community and local government and neighborhoods.
Right. I'm anxious to see this pathway for pedestrian traffic from Hudson Hill over to the new centers that they're proposing by Moses Jackson.
Oh, we didn't get a chance to much to talk about that, our center, but that's interesting there because we can't lose our center and we can't lose the Grant Center.
Right.
So we support both of those. We can't afford to lose anything. We are a fragile community.
Mm-hmm.
We're a low wealth community. We have plans and we have visions of building wealth. We want to change the trajectory. We want to make sure, we want to eradicate and lessen the crime. We want to make sure that we have investment. We want to bring opportunities for our young people. We want to encourage them. We want to support them. You know, we want to do all these things so we could have a better community. So we need local government on board with that.
Right.
We need them to support that vision.
Right.
And if they're against that vision, then they're against the betterment of our community. They become our enemy.
Right.
Because we are fighting for the good of our community. We are fighting for the betterment of our community. Now, who could be against that?
Ain't no in between right there. That was
Right.
clear. There's no in between. If you're not for us, you're against us. But I like that mentality because that's it. You're not going to play the fence. This is what I have. Here's a plan. And either you can hop on board or everybody's going to see that you're not for us. When you said in your org chart, citizens are at the top. You didn't say which citizens. You didn't say this set of citizens and not this set of citizens. You said citizens,
That's
period.
right. Absolutely. All citizens
Yes.
should have to say so about their communities. And if somebody, we don't live near each other, but if somebody come in your community and they're not supporting the vision of the people and who have collaborated and come up with the vision, and then I got your back. You know, no, that's Mellie's community, and if it's Miss so and so downtown, and I don't know her, but if somebody's coming at her community and disrespecting people that live there and impacting their community, then I stand with those people.
As it should be.
Yes,
We
but
all
it should be a balance. I think we could strike a really good balance, but everyone has to be at that table.
I agree. You said some key words here tonight. I definitely want to bring it back to the one thing that you said the entire program is building wealth. Building wealth. We're not talking about struggle. We are speaking prosperity here.
Absolutely. We're claiming it.
Claiming it. I love it. So, if it's one thing the public should know about you and the organizations that you represent, what is it that you want them to know?
I want them to know that I am focused on the community development corporation work. I am focused on the strategic community building, on the live, work, play, on the designing communities for wealth, for prosperity, and the people that live there could reap the investment in the wealth, and that's what I support, and that will build these communities. And at the end of the day, it's about providing opportunities for our children. Our children right now are threatened by what's happening in society, and it's not working for them. The numbers show, when we look at the numbers, that our children aren't benefiting from what's happening. So we need to change the trajectory. We need to fight for that. We don't need to ask nobody and wait for an answer. We got to fight for this, because the future for our children is in jeopardy, and it's so bad that our babies are dying in the street. And we have to do something about that, mothers and fathers. So we have to come together as a community. We have to come together as people and do something about that. And we can't be quiet. We can't go away. It has to change. We got to make sure that we have a thriving, safe place, and for our children to grow and prosper. So we could take the people out of diaspora, and they could go and see what's going on over there.
I love it. I love it. We got to plan that. But we're going to talk off air about that. Tell the people where they can find more information about you, your organizations, how they can get involved.
Okay, so we're working with some young people now, and talking about our social media presence. But we are on Facebook. We have a Facebook page, and I'm personally on Facebook also. And we working on a strategic plan for the West Side, and building some content and some web pages and connecting that effort. So Facebook is probably the best place where I can be reached, and to see what I'm all about and the organization is all about. So that's the Ivory Bay Community Development Corporation, CDC, Community Development Corporation.
All right. Well, that was Real Talk Live with Miss Bernetta Bryant Lanier. It was a great conversation. This is an awesome, intelligent warrior woman. Love her to death, and you are always invited back.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed the conversation.
Yes. You're listening to WRUULP, Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul. Good night. Come on. Oh, gotta. Let's wrap. Yes.